Hello everyone, this is Andy Drifter and welcome to my year-end review in baseball video. The Atlanta Braves, they won their first World Series in 26 years as they beat down the Astros 4-2. I'm pretty sure everybody is happy with that outcome with the exception of those who live in the Houston area. Freddie Freeman adds one more notch to his belt as he takes one more step closer to Cooperstown. Jorge Solaire wins the World Series MVP. This is his second ring. He was part of that 2016 Chicago Cubs team. He is not new to hitting bombs. He hit 3 during this World Series. He hit 48 home runs 2 seasons ago with the Royals as he led the AL. So, great season for the Braves, and that team is still relatively young, and they did it without Ronald Acuna, who will be back next year. So you can expect them to be in the postseason mix next year. As strange as it sounds, the first name that I thought of when the Braves won the World Series was Nick Markakis. For those of you that don't know, he spent 15 years in the big leagues. He retired right before the 2021 season. He spent 6 years with the Braves, and prior to that, he spent 9 seasons with the Orioles. I thought he had a shot at getting to 3,000 hits. He finished his career with 2,388. His whole career he was just a model of consistency. Every year he would get you between 160 and 180 hits, 35 to 40 doubles. He finished with over 500 career doubles. He had some pop in his bat. He'd get you somewhere between 12 to 15 home runs. He was 37 years old. He made 1 All-Star appearance. He made 4 appearances in the postseason, 3 Gold Gloves. He was a solid defender, but he never got a chance to play in the big show. And I'm sure he was off somewhere watching the Braves win it all and thinking to himself, man, if I'd have just stuck it out for 1 more season, I could have got that ring, and he probably would have got to 2,500 hits. Either way, Nick Markakis, great player, great career. It reminds me a lot of Mike Messina. Mike Messina spent 18 years in the big leagues, and he did make 1 World Series appearance, but he never won a ring. He hung up his spurs after the 2008 season, and then, of course, in 2009, the Yankees win it all. Mike Messina, he clearly had a lot left in the tank. His final year in the big leagues was his first 20-win season. He went on to make the Hall of Fame. As far as Nick Markakis, as great of a career he had, he will not be making the Hall of Fame. But I can't help but think that had he got to 2,500 hits, had he gotten that ring and maybe another Gold Glove, he could have gotten that minimum 5% to stay on the ballot for at least 1 year, although that's a bit of a stretch. Moving on, MVP finalists have been announced in both the American League and National League. Let's talk about the American League first. Marcus Semien, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and Shohei Otani are the 3 finalists. Marcus Semien, he had a career year. First time hitting over 40 home runs, first All-Star appearance, and first Gold Glove. All that being said, he will not win the MVP. He was not even the MVP of his own team. He played for the Blue Jays. This was a contract year. I know the Blue Jays just offered him an extension, which he turned down, so who knows if he'll stay with Toronto or move elsewhere. But the MVP of the Blue Jays this year was clearly Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Now, before I get into Vladdy, it's pretty obvious Shohei is going to win the MVP in the AL, but I'm going to play devil's advocate and just talk about why the voters might vote for Vladdy Jr. Shohei only batted a .257 this year, and if he wins the MVP, and he probably will, that'll be the lowest batting average ever for an MVP winner. Roger Maris, he batted .269 in 1961. That was the year he hit 61 home runs. Of course, many people still consider that the real single-season home run record. Vladdy Jr. had a monster year, Triple Crown stats. He batted .311. He led the majors with 48 home runs. Salvador Perez of the Royals, he also had 48 home runs. Vladdy Jr., he led the league in runs scored, OPS, slugging, on-base percentage, total bases, OPS plus. I think that covered it all. The Blue Jays finished 9 games above 500. So there is a chance that sports writers could vote for him. But the problem with Vladdy Jr. is that he did not serve double duty as a pitcher. Shohei, in 23 games started as a pitcher, he went 9-2. with a 3.16 ERA. He struck out 156 batters in 130 innings, very impressive. And then there was his season performance at the plate, 46 home runs, 100 RBI, 8 triples. He led the league in that. It's very rare for a power hitter to lead the league in triples, but he did it. What we're seeing from Shohei is truly unprecedented. I've been watching baseball for over 30 years. I've never seen anybody pitch like that and hit like that. So it clearly is the story of the year in baseball, and one of the best sports stories, period, considering all sports. So Shohei, you can almost take it to the bank that he will win his first AL MVP this year. Now let's talk about the National League finalists: Fernando Tatis, Bryce Harper, and Juan Soto. At the All-Star break, it looked like that Fernando Tatis, he was going to run away with the award. He had 28 home runs. The Padres were playing well. It looked like that he had a chance at hitting over 50 home runs. But after the All-Star break, his numbers dipped, and so did the Padres. They kind of faded away. He did end up leading the National League with 42 home runs. I believe he had a .282 batting average. He will not win the MVP this year, but again, he's still really young, so he could be in the mix for seasons to come. Juan Soto, only at 22 years old, he led the league in walks and on-base percentage, which is pretty impressive. He finished with a .313 average, 29 home runs, 95 RBI. But the Nationals, they were terrible. I believe they finished 16 games under 500. At no point in the season were they in the playoff mix. Unfortunately, Hall of Fame voters, MVP voters, they factor in the team's performance into the MVP vote. That being said, Alex Rodriguez won the award in 2003. I believe that was his third season with the Rangers when they finished in last place. So every now and again, somebody wins an MVP from a really bad team, but I don't believe that will be this year. Juan Soto, a star in the making. You can rest assured that he will be in the MVP mix for years to come. That leaves us with Bryce Harper. He didn't do much in the first half. He wasn't even part of the MVP conversation in the first half of the season. It was all about Fernando Tatis, but he really turned it on in the second half. He ended up leading the National League in doubles, slugging percentage, and OPS. He had a .309 batting average with 35 home runs and 84 RBI. The Phillies, they were in the playoff mix all the way till the very end, although they did not make the postseason. Bryce Harper, if he wins the award, he will only become the 5th major leaguer to win MVPs with 2 different teams. The other players to have accomplished that feat: Frank Robinson, A-Rod, Barry Bonds, and Mickey Cochran. When was the last time you heard that name? So Bryce Harper, you can expect him to win his 2nd career MVP this year. Other notables as far as the AL MVP race and National League MVP race, as far as the American League, Salvador Perez, I mentioned him earlier. He had the best year of his career, 48 home runs, 121 RBIs. He led the majors in both categories. Most likely he will have a top 5 MVP finish. And Freddie Freeman, he had a great year this year. You can expect him to finish in the top 5 as well. Now let's talk about the upcoming Hall of Fame ballot. This will be the most star-studded ballot ever, I believe. We got 6 of the biggest names in baseball appearing on the ballot this year. And there is a chance that none of them will ever make it to Cooperstown. We got 4 holdovers from last year and 2 newcomers. Let's talk about the holdovers: Sammy Sosa, Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, and Curt Schilling. We'll get Sosa out of the way. He has no chance of making it. He only had 17% of the votes last year. All 4 of those guys, the holdovers, this will be their last year of eligibility on the ballot. Sosa, again, between the corked bat, the steroid allegations, how he left the Chicago Cubs, you can pretty much rest assured that he will not make the jump from 17% to 75%. But the guy with the best chance to make it to the Hall of Fame will be Curt Schilling. Last year, he finished with 71.1% of the votes, which was just short of that 75% threshold. Curt Schilling, when you look at his regular season stats, they don't blow you away. They're really, really good. I wouldn't quite say they're Hall of Fame worthy. He had a 3.46 career ERA. I believe he had 216 career wins, over 3,000 strikeouts, 3,116 to be exact. He never did win the Cy Young, but he did have 3 second-place finishes. That being said, when it came to the postseason, he was as good as they came. Arguably the best postseason pitcher of all time. 11-2 in the postseason, 2.23 ERA. He got 3 rings, one with Arizona. That's where he won the co-MVP with Randy Johnson, and then he won twice with the Red Sox. Of course, we remember the bloody sock. Again, who knows if that was real or not. I guess we'll never know. I believe that is featured in the Hall of Fame. Of course, it's been Schilling's mouth that has kept him out of the Hall of Fame all these years. He clearly has the credentials. He said many asinine things while he played and after his retirement. He requested the Hall of Fame last year to remove his name off the ballot after he was frustrated of not getting in after his 9th year of eligibility. They denied his request. Could that come back to bite him this year? I don't think so. I think he gets in this year, and I'm sure he'll have some interesting things to say at his induction speech. Let's talk about Roger Clemens. Statistically, one of the best pitchers of all time. 7 Cy Youngs. He won an MVP. He got 2 rings. Second on the all-time strikeout list. But the problem is he also has a clear connection to steroids and PEDs. You know, the funny thing is about these 4 guys, Clemens, Schilling, Sosa, and Bonds, is I think they're their own worst enemy. As far as Clemens and his PED usage, I don't think anybody was really sniffing around too closely at him. It was more like the attention was towards Bonds, McGuire, and those guys. And what Clemens decided to do, he decided to voluntarily appear before Congress and deny his use of steroids and PEDs. Federal prosecutors watched that very closely. They felt like he was lying. They charged him with perjury. He took him to trial and beat him, which is pretty impressive, beating the feds in trial. The feds, they have over a 98% conviction rate, so kudos to him on that. Roger Clemens, though, last year he finished just below 62% on the Hall of Fame ballot. You know, we've seen with Alan Trammell and Tim Raines and Edgar Martinez and these guys on their last year of eligibility, they get this push from their fan base to get in, and it gets them over that 75% mark. Could that happen this year? Roger Clemens, he has 4 fan bases that are going to be pulling for him: the Red Sox, the Astros, the Yankees, and the Blue Jays. I think he's going to get in this year. I really do. I feel optimistic about that, but we shall see. And that leaves us with Barry Bonds, who belongs on the Mount Rushmore as far as best hitters of all time. FYI, Barry Bonds and Jose Canseco, they were my favorite ball players growing up. So, of course, I think he belongs in the Hall. I'm not going to go over all his achievements. I mean, you know him if you're a baseball fan. All-time home run leader, 7 MVPs, 8 Gold Gloves, 14 All-Star appearances. I could go on and on and on. Of course, he was a jerk to the media and a lot of his teammates. He was just a difficult guy to deal with. And then, of course, there's his connections to Balco and PEDs. The feds also took him to trial. They felt like he perjured himself during the grand jury testimony on Balco. They charged him with obstruction of justice. He was found guilty of that. The perjury charge came back as a hung jury. However, going back to the obstruction of justice charge, that was overturned on appeal. So as far as the courts go, he's been cleared of any wrongdoing. But as far as the courts go, as far as public opinion, it's clear that he used. You can estimate that his usage started in 99, or the 98 season, 99 rather, when his home run to at-bat ratio just jumped through the roof. It's interesting, you know, he retired in 2007, not by choice. He was on the verge of getting to 3,000 hits and breaking Rickey Henderson's all-time runs record, but he was blackballed, even though in 2007 he had 28 home runs and had over 1,000 OPS. Will Barry Bonds get in this year? I think this will be his year. ESPN, they released an E60 this past Sunday. It was talking about his last year of eligibility. It was good. There was really no new ground covered in the documentary. There was some interviews by Jim Leland and Will Clark, which were somewhat insightful. Barry Bonds did not participate in that E60, but there was some old footage of his past interviews. But as far as it goes, I think he gets in this year along with Clemens and Schilling. All right, now we got the newcomers, David Ortiz and Alex Rodriguez. Let's talk about Big Papi first. Arguably the best DH of all time. 541 career home runs. He got 3 rings. He got a World Series MVP and an ALCS MVP. Started his career with Minnesota. He didn't do much there, but he blossomed once he went to Fenway. Perennial All-Star. He had 5 straight years of top 5 MVP finishes. He did win a home run title and an RBI title. That all being said, the Hall of Fame, they have not been kind to the designated hitter. They did vote in Frank Thomas on his first year of eligibility, but he did play a good chunk of his career at first base. Big Papi, he played over 80% of his career at the DH, so that's going to work against him. He also has a connection to PEDs. He tested positive for steroids back when there was no penalty for it. I believe he was named in the Mitchell report. He said he never used steroids. He claimed that it was a tainted supplement. That is a pretty weak excuse, although in his case, I do believe him. Up until 04-05, the supplement industry, it was the Wild West. There were a lot of products that you could buy over the counter that converted to steroid hormones once you ingested them. So in his case, I do believe him. I say he's going to get at least 50% of the votes. He is now a member of the media. He is fantastic as an analyst. We saw him alongside the Big Hurt and A-Rod during the World Series. So being a member of the media, I'm sure works in his favor. He's one of the most beloved figures in baseball, one of the most recognizable faces in a sport that really doesn't have much popularity outside the U.S. and the D.R. So I say he gets a 50% in his first year, which is a good benchmark to start off with, and you can expect him to get in on year 3 or year 4. Next up is Alex Rodriguez, A-Rod, one of the best statistics of all time as far as career stats. 696 home runs, 3 MVPs, he's got many gold gloves, perennial all-star. He is 4th on the all-time RBI list. I could go on and on about his stats as well. He's part of the 40-40 club. That being said, he also has 2 failed drug tests on his resume. I believe he tried to sue Major League Baseball after the second one. He realized that was a no-win battle, so he went on to serve a 100-game suspension. You know, with A-Rod, at one time, he was the most hated player in baseball, if not all of sports. And fast forward to now, he's one of the most beloved figures. You can say he's a media mogul, a business mogul. He's made appearances on Shark Tank. He's thrived as a businessman. I'm sure his personality has rubbed off on a lot of sports writers, so that may work in his favor as far as getting votes. But he virtually has no chance of getting in after 2 failed drug tests. I say he'll get somewhere between 25 and 30% of the votes. He'll probably stay on the ballot for all 10 years, but he will ultimately never get into Cooperstown. One last name worth mentioning as far as the Hall of Fame goes, Mark Tashira. He'll be making his first appearance on the ballot. 409 career home runs, 5-time Gold Glover, 3-time All-Star, had some great years with the Rangers, the Angels, the Braves, and he finished off with the Yankees where he got a ring. You can make an argument that he's in the top 5 as far as best switch hitters of all time, right behind Pete Rose, Mickey Mantle, Chipper Jones, and Eddie Murray. That being said, I don't think he gets into the Hall of Fame. His stats fall just a bit short. He is now a member of the media as well. He was with ESPN. I don't know if he still is, so that could work in his favor. I say he's going to get probably around 15 to 20% of the votes. He may be one of those guys that stays on the ballot for all 10 years as well. All that being said, listen, what the hell do I know? I'm not a sports writer. Sometimes they can be unpredictable. Jim Tomy, he somehow got in on his first year of eligibility. Jim Tomy is a Hall of Famer, but there's not a chance in hell that he was a first ballot Hall of Famer. Yes, he had over 600 home runs, but he also played for 22 seasons. He only made 4 or 5 All-Star teams. He had 1 top 5 MVP finish. He never got a ring. A career .211 hitter in the postseason, and he had many appearances in the postseason. He clearly was not a first ballot Hall of Famer, but his character, I mean, he was known as one of the nicest guys in baseball, and he had no connections to PEDs that we're aware of. So that is why he got in on his first try. And then you had Vladimir Guerrero Sr., who did not get in till his second try. I mean, if there was ever a thing as a slam dunk first ballot Hall of Famer, it would have been Vladimir Guerrero Sr. He was must-see TV. Either he was doing it with his arm or at the plate or on the field. He was absolutely amazing to watch. So who knows with this Hall of Fame voting, how it'll go. I'm just giving you my predictions. I've been a baseball fan for most of my life. So just based on things that I have seen, I'm telling you what I predict. Looking forward to the 2022 season, there's some milestones that are coming up. Miguel Cabrera, he needs 13 hits to get to 3,000. Once he does that, he will become the 7th member of the 3,000 hit, 500 home run club. Very exclusive company. So assuming that he starts off the season healthy, he will do that in a relatively short amount of time. He still has 2 more years on his contract. Obviously, he's on the downhill of his career, but still one of the best to do it, one of the most lovable players, and you can rest assured that he will be a slam dunk first ballot Hall of Famer. Another interesting milestone that could be coming up is with Nelson Cruz. 449 career home runs. He needs 51 to get to 500. Now, he's not going to do that next year. There's a question if he'll even play next year. He's already 41 years old. He is a free agent, but he has a lot left in the tank. He hit 32 home runs this year between Minnesota and Tampa, batted .265, which is kind of what he's been batted his whole career. I think another team will pick him up, and he will continue his pursuit to 500 home runs. Next season, we can look forward to the return of 3 superstars, Ronald Acuna Jr., Mike Trout, and Justin Verlander. Acuna, only 23 years old. A couple seasons ago, he came close to doing the 40-40. This year, after 82 games, he had 24 home runs and 17 stolen bases. So it looks like the 40-40 is on his radar. And when and if he does that, he will be the 5th guy to do it. Jose Canseco, Barry Bonds, A-Rod, and Alfonso Soriano did the 40-40. So that's some pretty good company there. Mike Trout, he was in the MVP conversation this year before his season ended due to injury. At one point, it looked like he was going to threaten Barry Bonds' 7 MVPs. Mike Trout sits at 3 MVPs. I think he'll win at least one more when it's all said and done. So hopefully he returns back to the lineup healthy and strong. And him and Shohei, they can make one hell of a 1-2 punch. He's only 30 years old, so I believe he's got a lot left in the tank. I don't know if he'll get to 600 home runs, but he'll definitely get to 500. I had this debate with somebody on one of my Facebook groups. I think he's got a shot at 600, but who knows? We shall see. And Justin Verlander, at 38 years old, he says he has every intention on coming back. Sort of his career sort of had a dip towards the end of his time with Detroit. Once he joined Houston, he got a resurgence. He got another Cy Young and a ring. He is a first ballot Hall of Famer, but he still says there's much left for him to do. So we can look forward to his return as well. So that was my year-end review in baseball. I hope you enjoyed that. If you haven't already, please hit like, hit subscribe to my channel. Check out my previous videos. I cover football, baseball, and UFC. I open up a lot of packs of baseball cards and football cards as well. I attend a lot of autograph signings. On occasion, I will show footage of that. So on that note, take care. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in my next video.